You pay too much tax because the government wastes too much money. Don't believe me? Take a look at this. The Fed spent $32,000 on a report about how space exploration is, quote, racist, exploitative, elitist, and environmentally destructive. The Fed spent 20 grand on a report about gender politics in Peruvian rock music. The Feds also spent more than $100,000 on a report tracking the birth, life, and death of an urban grocery cart. And buckle up, folks, because that's just the beginning of the wasteful spending in Ottawa. It took Parks Canada 4 years and $10,000 to capture one American bullfrog in British Columbia. Also in BC, Parks Canada spent $800,000 hunting 84 deer. That's a cost of $10,000 a deer. The Feds also spent $8 million building a barn at Rideau Hall. Now, I don't know the first thing about farming, but I'm pretty sure my buddies in Brooks know how to build a barn for a whole lot less than $8 million. The Trudeau government also spent $12,000 paying seniors in other countries to talk about their sex lives in front of live audiences. That's right, the government was outsourcing old people's sex stories. The Trudeau government also spent $8,800 on a sex toy show in Germany. Well, here's a question for you. How much does it cost to produce a podcast? What about several podcasts? Well, if you're the Trudeau government, the answer is about $2 million. Governor General Mary Simon spent $71,000 on limos in Iceland. Bureaucrats are spending $76,000 a month renting out art to decorate their offices. Global Affairs Canada is spending $51,000 a month on booze. And bureaucrats also spend $721,000 on tickets to circuses and concerts, balls and ballets in less than 2 years. And Trudeau spent $1.3 million on 3 affordability retreats in 1 year. Now that doesn't sound too affordable to me. Then there's the big stuff. It took nearly 24 prime ministers and a century and a half for the government to rack up $600 billion in debt, where the total stood before Trudeau's first day as prime minister. Less than a decade later, this year, Trudeau has now officially doubled the entire federal debt. In fact, the government now wastes more money on debt interest charges than what it sends to the provinces in health transfers. The Feds also put taxpayers on the hook for about $30 billion in corporate welfare to multinational corporations like Honda, Volkswagen, Stellantis, and Northvolt. The Feds also announced about $600 million for the Ford Motor Company, $551 million for Umicore, $420 million for Algoma Steel, $110 million for Toyota, $372 million for Bombardier, and $12 million for Loblaws. And even when the government sets out to spend less money, it ends up spending more. Last year, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland promised to find $15 billion in savings over 5 years. But the Feds increased spending by $24 billion last year, and they plan to increase spending by $111 billion over the next 5 years. Newsflash for the federal government: when you increase spending by billions of dollars every single year, you're saving money wrong. The size and cost of the federal government has gotten completely out of control. Trudeau has added 108,000 extra government bureaucrats since becoming prime minister. That's a 42% increase in less than a decade. Now, for the sake of comparison, Canada's population grew by just 14% during those years. So had the bureaucracy grown in line with population growth, there would be 72,000 fewer federal paper pushers today. The average compensation for a federal bureaucrat is about $125,000 a year after salary, pay, bonus, perks, and pensions are accounted for, according to the parliamentary budget officer. That means cutting back the size of the bureaucracy to population growth would save taxpayers about $9 billion every year. And you better believe Trudeau's battalion of bureaucrats have been busy taking bonuses. Last year, the Feds handed out $400 million in bonuses to bureaucrats working in federal departments and crown corporations. and the bonuses are flowing despite bad performance from federal bureaucrats. Government executives overseeing a Rive scam took $340,000 in bonuses. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation handed out $102 million in bonuses in recent years, despite Canadians not being able to afford homes. The Bank of Canada has one job: keep inflation low and around 2%. Yet the Bank of Canada handed out $20 million in bonuses in 2022 as it hiked interest rates 7 times and inflation reached a 40-year high. Then there's everyone's favorite state broadcaster. The CBC handed out $132 million in taxpayer-funded bonuses since 2015. This year, the average bonus for a CBC executive is $73,000, which is more than what the average Canadian worker makes in an entire year. So yeah, you pay too much tax because the government wastes too much money. But here's the good news. Given all this waste, a champion of taxpayers could massively cut spending, and barely anyone outside of the Ottawa bubble would even notice. Now all we need are politicians with the guts to pick up the scissors.